Welcome back, guys, to Wildly Opinionated, your source for random wildlife discussion. Thank you for joining us for another March Mammal Madness bracketology analysis. That is a mouthful. But welcome back. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at wildly_podcast. You can follow my personal Instagram and Twitter at thebonnerlade. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to send me funny gifs, or whatever you call them, go ahead and email that to us at wildlyopinionated@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Like, rate, review, share, tell your friends, mail it to your grandma, whatever you want to do. Go ahead and do that. We're putting out this quality content. But we did already the Jump Division, which is the first division of Round 1 for March Mammal Madness. If you didn't see that video, and you didn't get that breakdown of what March Mammal Madness is and how the bracket works, and how, just the jump contestants in the division there, go ahead and check that out. Be sure to fill out your brackets if you haven't done so already. Even if you've missed a round or two, go ahead and fill it out anyway. Just don't take the points for that round if you want to be pure about it. Go ahead and have fun with it. But let's go ahead and get started with the Waterfalls Division. This is a really cool division. It's aquatic or animals that live in or near aquatic environments. So suited for swimming and foraging in water, that type of stuff. It's a really cool group of animals we got here. So let's go ahead and get started with that with our first contestant, the mighty moose, a big staple North American fauna. Huge, they got the amazing antlers. The females are, they don't have antlers, but they're just as majestic and aggressive. So they're sitting at roughly 500 to 1,500 pounds and about 7 foot tall at the shoulder. Now, it's pretty easy to talk about how the strengths and weaknesses of moose are, or the mises, what they are. They're large and they're hardy and they're very protective and territorial and aggressive. Like if you go to up North America, like north of the northern part of North America, North America, you have to worry about mother moose, and that's like your biggest worry is if you don't want to get between them and their calves. So they're very, very majestic and beautiful creatures, but you don't want to mess with them. So that's why they're coming in at a 1 seed versus the 16 seed Bulldog Bat. The Bulldog Bat is exactly what you think. It's just a bat that's got little droopy bulldog face, and they have great flying abilities. They're one of the few bats that can forage on top of the surface of the water. And so they can snatch their prey really easily with their big hook claws from the surface of the water. But the only problem is they weigh a lot less than the moose. Like a lot. And while I do love a good Bulldog Bat, I don't really see the Bulldog Bat doing much of the mighty moose. So the mises, they are moving on with their round 1 victory. Sorry, Bulldog Bat. See you next time. Assuming that the moose doesn't smash you to death. But even then. Our next contestant is the 8-seeded flat-headed cat versus the 9-seeded water chevroton. Took me a while to get the pronunciation of that. So, chevroton. But the flat-headed cat is about 3 to 5 pounds, and they can't retract their claws. I believe they're one of 4 different types of cats that can't retract their claws. So they're always down to post up. They're always down to smash and party and fight. So, flat-headed cat, don't mess around with it. The water chevroton, they're a little bit bigger, even though they're small for ungulates. They're about 20 plus pounds. The females are larger than the males, but they're just whittle ungulates with whittle fangs. The males have some elongated saber-like canines, and they also use their lower incisors to fight other males. The females also have larger canines, but they're usually shorter and blunter than the males. So I'm going to go with the flat-headed cat, taking this one from the water chevroton. This is one of those, it's an 8-9 seed, just like we had with the jackrabbit and the spring hare in the jump division, where they're pretty closely matched. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the higher-seeded flat-headed cat. Next we have the 5-seeded beaver versus the I wrote down 16. Oh, right, that's a 12. I'm reading it backwards. It's fine, don't worry about it. The 5-seeded beaver versus the 12-seeded mink. Beaver is another one of those classic North American wildlife examples that you see coming on, and I'll be damned if I'm not going to go with it. But the beaver is roughly 24 to 71 pounds, and they have those strong rodent incisors that are, super tough and can bite through wood and can really mess somebody up. You look at that Jeff Foxworthy clip and you bit his nipple off. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're definitely not from Texas. So go ahead and Google that, and please don't think we're all hicks, even though there's ample evidence that we are. But you have your mink coming in. They're super sneaky and slippery and agile, but they're also less than 5 pounds. And I'm going to go ahead and go with the beaver and its damn powerful bite, getting a round 1 win over the mink. Next we have the white-lipped peccary at a 4 seed versus the 13-seeded racali, or Australian water rat or Australian otter, whatever you want to call them. I think they have a couple different names. Basically, I think the racali name is used to pay homage to the Aboriginal, the Aborigines, the native indigenous people of Australia, and the names that they had, so some culture in there. So that's pretty cool. The problem with the racali is they're only 3 pounds. They're very small versus your white-lipped peccary is closer to 50 pounds. It's a larger, aggressive pig. They have those sharp tusks. But don't sleep on the racali because they're adept swimmers, as most of these creatures are. They're very intelligent. Not much is known about them because they're hard to catch. They're hard to trap. They're really good escape artists. You catch them in a net, they just chew through it and swim out. But I keep hyping these things up and then not picking them because I'm going with the powerhouse peccary. And the Australian water rat will have to wait to shine at another time. Our next matchup is the crab-eating fox versus the moon rat. Crab-eating fox is similar to what you would look at like a red fox or whatever, just not as common, not as well known. They're about 11 to 17-ish pounds. Nocturnal hunters, very territorial, especially during the dry season, I believe. They're more territorial than they are in the wet season because I'm assuming that they have less resources in the dry season, so they want to kind of keep those to themselves. But the moon rat is pretty small, about 3 pounds. It's not actually a rodent. It's sort of a primitive hedgehog, except for they don't have the quills and the spines. It's denser fur instead of the spines. So I try to usually find some good things about these animals, so we can at least have a positive to go off of, but I'm not going to lie. Moon rat doesn't have a lot going for it. Solitary, pretty clumsy, easy to catch, but they do produce a very strong odor from their anal glands, which I've heard smells like bad garlic. So, plus, they're just insecure. They have an identity crisis. They're not a rat. They're definitely not from the moon, and they call themselves moon rats. Not a winner in my book, but if you want to go with a stinky butt moon rat over the crab-eating fox, go ahead. I'm not going that route, personally. So, crab-eating fox moves on, and you have stinky butt moon rat leaving. Next, we have the Lowland tapir versus the water possum, and that is 3-seeded versus 14-seeded. Now, the Lowland tapir, they're strong swimmers. They have those pretty prehensile trunks on them. They can submerge in water for a very long time, long enough for any predator that would latch onto its back to most likely let go. And it's also thought that they can walk on the bottom of riverbeds and forage down there, kind of as if I believe hippos can do that as well. But the water possum is a very interesting creature itself. It's much smaller. The Lowland tapir is about 370 pounds. The water possum is just less than 2 pounds. But they're very suited for swimming. Like I said, all of these are. But they even have a bunch of, fur density type of things that other possums in family Didelphidae don't have. But they're also the only extant aquatic marsupial, or at least semi-aquatic marsupial, which is a pretty big deal. So they're pretty hardy. They're making it. But if history and evolution has taught us anything, it's that 9 times out of 10, unless you're in the country of Australia, marsupials are not going to outcompete placentals. So I'm going to go Lowland tapir takes it from the water possum. Our second to last battle in the Waterfall Division of Round 1 is the marine otter at the 7-seed versus the 10-seeded aquatic gannet. Now, people sleep on otters. I've been saying this for years, ever since I went to Brazil and I saw a river otter just straight up murk some piranhas. These things are more vicious than you think they are. You see those cute little sea otters, they're holding hands, they have a pouch for their favorite rocks and their clams. But marine otters, while they're smaller than some otters, they do have that propensity to be vicious and be little fighters, little sea wolves. But the aquatic gannet, on the other hand, is a bit smaller than the sea otter or the marine otter, and they have poorly developed molars. But they do have large premolars that are specialized for handling slippery, wet aquatic prey. They're also super rare, so not much is known about them. So kind of mysterious. There's not a whole lot of behavioral studies on them, or at least ones that have gotten any results, because they're hard to find. So while this may not be the decision you're going with, I'm going to go ahead and pick the aquatic gannet, because I feel like if it's coming out and you're going to find it, it's going to make the most of its time out here. So aquatic gannet over marine otter. Our final matchup of the Waterfall Division Round 1 is everyone's favorite sea cow, the manatee, versus the Vansira. Now your manatee, there's a reason they're called sea cows, and while people thought they were mermaids back in the day, they were probably very, very, very seasick and homesick, probably had scurvy, and maybe glass eyes. So, you look at these sea cows, manatees, 440 pounds to about 1,300 pounds, about 8 to 13 feet in length, depending. And while they have this immense, massive size and no natural predators besides humans, they're not really a fighter. They don't have a whole lot of defenses or anything. Like, they don't have these crazy teeth or claws or lasers that shoot out of their heads or hired hitmen. Well, the Vansira, very small, about 2 pounds, but it's a relative to the mongoose. And if we know anything about mongooses, mongoosei, it's that they're feisty. So this is the Cinderella story I'm picking for the Waterfall Division, Vansira over manatee. So that's all we got for the Waterfall Division, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope your brackets are going well. I hope you're winning and bragging to all your friends, and they're just crying tears, bitter, bitter tears of loss and failure, and you can just, nourish yourself off of that victory and that knowledge that you're just better than everyone else you know. And if you are some of those people crying bitter, bitter tears, just know that while we care about you, you are less than us. So, enjoy your bracket, guys. Thanks again for tuning in to Wildly Opinionated, your source for random wildlife discussion. Don't forget to follow, like, share, subscribe, rate, review, send me money in the mail. You don't even have to address it like a return address. Just send me bars of gold, precious minerals. See you next time.